And as the receiver of that, what you feel is something from the heart. So please welcome good friend, Steve, who encourages me every time I get to encourage him.
Class 19.
What an event so far. Can I get an amen from you guys? Great. I will work with your energy. I will be hanging out with you. This is not a talk or a speech. This is a conversation that we get to have today. My name is Steve Kripke again, and I am, first off, a man of God. Amen. I am married to my best friend. You can see in this picture here. That's Daniel with glasses. That's our oldest son, Andrew's 13. That's our youngest son, Tyler, who's 11. He'll be 11 in 2 weeks. I can't even believe how fast. It's just like this. And so the reason why I decided to do this, I wanted to go on my own so I can be with capital B-E, with our family, and really spend that time with them. I didn't want them looking for mentors and coaches in their schools and on TV and nothing personal against athletes. I wanted to be the one. And that's why we had to step into that as parents. But before I go too far, today's my anniversary, our anniversary. 17 years. If I could say, if we could do a 1, 2, 3, we could say happy anniversary to Danielle. She's been gracious enough to say, yeah, man, go ahead and have a nice weekend. So we can do 1, 2, 3, say 1, 2, 3. Happy show you the type of person that I'm married to. It's been an emotional day. And I texted my wife, I said, would you pray for me that I hold it together tonight, or today on the stage? And she said, yeah, sure. I said, will you pray for me? And I get Ephesians 4:15. That's all it said. It says, instead speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. About 15 minutes later, I get, okay. I'm like, that's weird. Did you see my message earlier? And she said, what message? She never got my message that I asked her to pray for me. She randomly sent me. When I say she, it's him. Woo. He's always watching. You want to know how our integrity grows? Because we have to watch. I want to thank you, Tom, to be here and to speak on the same stage as you, and people like you and Howard and David, Michelle, Mr. Hearn, Michelle, you too, Dusty. It's an absolute honor, and I can't come close to thank you enough, so thank you for this moment. When we step into this place of being here, we have what I call already always being. It's how we show up. Already always being is when you hear somebody speaking and they're talking about a topic, and you go, I've heard that before. Oh, this is me, I've read that book. And what we do is as soon as we do that, we immediately shut down. We're listening, we're kind of watching, everybody else is talking, we talk with them. So I encourage you that if you've heard something like this before, pretend like you didn't. That'd be awesome. And just hang out with me for just a few minutes, because I remember doing that one time in 2010, and then I stopped for a second. I heard the one thing that changed my business. conversation with a coach? What do you think? What do you feel? What do you feel that is? Just speak.
So, my experience has been that the coach doesn't want to change or doesn't feel like they can change.
Resistance.
Resistance.
All right, okay, cool. Anybody else? Thank you.
Judgment.
Judgment. Cool. That's a fair one, right?
Afraid you're going to tell somebody else.
Fear. I like that one too. Well, here's what's neat. Do I have permission to be real today?
Yes.
Yep. Great, thank you. That was on camera? Beautiful. That was all these guys on here. So here's where we sit. This speed of trust has created an extraordinary experience. So besides being dishonest, what gets in the way of a coachee and coaching trust? Right? It's your intention. It's your intentions, our intention. When we bring intention, our intention into the coaching, that shifts everything. See, our intention is our need to look good. We need to make sure that our coachee knows that, we know what we're talking about here, because I'm a coach. You need to make sure that they know I have enough wisdom to help them. And that happens all the time. And if you haven't fallen in that place, well, good for you guys. I was there for years, letting them know how smart I was. I just read this new book, so I read the book that I remembered out of my mind, and I just read it to them. And I let them know what I just learned. What we're doing when we do that, when we bring that into the conversation, we're actually robbing that person of greatness. Because you're shifting them from what they don't even know what they want to what we want them to want. So be cautious. But we're going to create that today, and we're going to create that space for them to walk into. So, the quickest way to build trust is for them to be freely self-expressed, to be open and there with you with them. Man, I'm going to get into this more, but just really remember that word, those two words, freely expressed, and really being there with you. So when we're sitting here, when we're understanding what it means to be expressed and self-expressed, we've got to understand, what is self? I'm not talking about the new age self where you're this higher self, and that's not what I mean. I'm talking about you. Who is self? Who is it? If we can remember this, when we look at self, it's how we became. It's how we got here. It's our past experiences. It's how we see things. It's our viewpoints. It's our beliefs. One thing we can do is we can all agree on one powerful thing, is that we all wound up the way we wound up. That we all got here. Right? Everybody has different personalities, everybody has different stories. Rochelle, man, that was so powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us. It was incredible. But you can hear that we all have these stories of how we are. So when we continue moving forward, we got to start, so Steve, you said free self-expression. So what is self-expression? Well, I'm going to read this because I kind of like what I learned. Self-expression is being in the place with no right or wrong, no manipulation, domination, coercion, good or bad, or judgment. And I'll say it one more time. No right or wrong, manipulation, no domination, coercion, judgment, and no good or bad. We're allowing that person to be free and in the conversation with you exactly how they show up. So if we take a look around the world right now, we need this more than ever. We sit in a place of right or wrong. In fact, if you take a look at it, if you're on social media of any kind, you're always wrong. And that person is always right. And I'm not ashamed to tell you this because it's helped me on my journey to understand who I am and how I get to show up for people. Is that, man, this is before, just want to make sure I'm honest, before anybody in here knew me. It wasn't very nice, so it's somebody the example. You know, when we remove the right, wrong, good, and bad, when we remove the judgment, we get to see people as people. We don't get to see them as race, we don't get to see them as color, or we don't get to see them as atheists or agnostics or Scientologists, or you can keep going down the line. And dare I say, we can even coach Republicans and Democrats. We can be wherever we want, because we see people as people, not the labels that we give them as society. None of the labels matter anyways, because it's what we believe in the label. It was kind of funny, when I first shaved my head, I realized that, did you know that I heard that bald guys are intimidating? You heard that? Yep. I thought that was kind of funny. I'm like, I'm like the nicest guy I've ever met. I'm like a big old teddy bear. But I found that out. Somebody believed it, somebody spoke it, other people believed it, it became some kind of a truth to people. So it's very interesting. So we get to hang out in that place. So we're moving forward here, well, and understanding this place of freely being expressed. We come from a place of what's called nothing or no thing. So the question really comes in is, what creates something? Well, I remember when I was a kid, my nan and gramps, if you don't know where nan and gramps is, my mom's side of the family, they were from Coventry, England. And they didn't have any money growing up. I remember them talking about scraping I don't know what that stuff is on the top of the milk bottles you get. It sounds so gross, but they would save it and make butter out of it. Anyways, that's what they would talk about. They couldn't afford butter. Well, in order to look wealthy and be that person in society, you had a pocket watch. Like if you had a pocket, people say, what time is it? Let me just look. You hit a little button right over. Boop. It was just neat, and that was the thing, right? And I remember my gramps had this gold pocket watch, and after he passed away, my dad gave it to me. And I came across it about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it made me think, my gramps was so cool. And I remember looking at it, and all these memories come rushing back to me, and there was so much meaning I had in that watch. My gramps. When we take a look at that, well, where does meaning come from? Meaning comes from our ideals of importance, our standards, our comparisons of good, better, best. In other words, it's our beliefs. That's how we create meaning. It's very simplistic. But here's a side note on that watch. Is it the watch that had the meaning? Or was it the memories that came up when I looked at the watch?
Yes.
We put meaning in all kinds of stuff. And then we sit back and we live our life in that meaning. And that's what's called coming from a place of something. So we need to help and guide our people through these beliefs and meanings, because when our beliefs and our meanings, they start becoming intertwined, when we allow this to happen, when they come into play, what we do is, as coaches, when we're having a conversation and something goes against what I believe as a person, you can use any examples you want. You can use anything. I'm not talking about personal Christian beliefs or anything like that. I'm talking about maybe there's an infidelity you're talking about with your client, and they said, I've been unfaithful. That happens, right? I'm not the only one that's had that conversation, right? Good. Well, when it goes against our beliefs, what we do, if we're not checking in with ourselves on a constant basis, we start subconsciously coercing that conversation in a way. So what's neat about that is this. When you feel that happening, because it happens, we're human beings, we're not superheroes because we're a coach, we're just like everybody else. We have knowledge that we've pulled and used from people that have an immense amount of experience. Check in with yourself. That's pretty much it. You hear it coming along, or you just stop for a moment and you say, what I just heard you say once. And you said that, right? It was fun this week. It's called reflective inquiry. And what you're doing is you're checking in with yourself, you're checking in with your client, you're letting them know that you heard them, and you're also becoming present again. Because when we get stuck in our beliefs and our meanings, what happens is we become out somewhere else. So the question now we get to walk into, now that we talked about that, we get to look into, well, what is yourself? And as we kind of started talking about it already, we talked about our self is the way it's been going. We're going to have you guys for a second. The way scenario for you really quick here. You're driving down the road, and this person next to you decides they want to be in front of you, and they're really anxious about it. And they cut you off to the point where there was a bug on your bumper, and they knocked the bug off your bumper. They were close. And you beep with them, like, maybe they didn't see the beep beep. Like, that's what we do, right? We're super nice when people do that. And they go, "You're number one." And you go, "What? That's weird. I can't believe that happened. That never happens to me." And we joke about it right now, but I'm going to change the scenario a little bit here. How does your predictable self show up when you have your newborn 2-day-old baby boy in the back? Or your 2-day-old baby little girl? How do you react that way? I don't know about you, I remember driving home. I could have patted my car with bubble wrap, right? Or a better one, maybe you'll identify with this one. You're hanging out with your girl, and this is for the guys and the gals. And your wife or your girlfriend, whoever sitting next to you, goes, turns off the television. "Johnny, we need to talk." And he goes, "Oh, no." "Okay, so the last 12 months, good there. 24 months, you were good there too. 36 months, good there. Do you see how quickly we predicted the conversation? How fast did we judge those words? How do we know that your wife wasn't like, "We need to talk," and she goes, "We hit the lottery!" And she's going to tell you. Right? But so fast and we're so quick to judge, and we're so fast to create something from nothing that we start coercing the conversation in our head before the conversation even starts. How did it originate? Got that one. Cool. So, if we take a look at how did our self originate? Well, it's like I said before, it's created from our past experiences, views, beliefs, and our thought on possibility. And when our self walks into the conversation, it's coming from a place of something. And I mentioned that before, so I want you to hang with me on that and remember what I just said. Now, I am if you saw me clapping yesterday, you know my rhythm's not very good. I'm like, get a little bit closer to the person next to me. All right, cool, yeah, I'm going to clap with you. And that's basically my rhythm, so I'm going to show you what I'm not going to dance for you, but I understand the dance. There is a philosophy of dancing, right? And when you're dancing with I'm not talking about the, that, I don't know what that is, but, that's not dancing what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real dancing. When you dance with your partner, and two people become one, right? Non-dominant hand on the lower back, dominant hand up on their hand, and you become one person. Right? You are a fluid energy going back and forth. This is not a shove battle. You are working with each other. Thank you for nodding for me. Remember that self I talked about? The dominating, manipulating, right, wrong, good, bad self? That's the one that goes, okay, all right, we're doing really well here. I don't know what that is, but that's not dancing. That is controlling the situation. It's kind of what I had. It's not very good. So what is the dance? Well, the dance is very powerful. It is a fluid back and forth understanding of exactly what's going on through the energy that you're feeling with your partner. Now we're starting to really get into this self-expression. Right now we're with each other. Right? This is a really cool place where we're here. Go on, that's awesome. So the powerful conversation is the dance. You are dancing with your partner, not just with words, but the words that aren't being said. That's when really cool stuff happens. So, what you're doing here is this, is when you're dancing, when you're physically dancing with somebody, you're not shoving, you're leading. You're helping that person move back and forth with you. It's like a wave and a pull, back and forth. And what you're doing is you're drawing them in to a blank space. This is what we're creating. When we come from a place of something, with all our stuff, when our self shows up, this is what we're bringing them into. moment that you start having a conversation with them. That you're going to show up, 100% for them. All them, not you, them. You restore your integrity. It's the same thing we just talked about before. It's checking in with yourself. It's very simplistic. It's, all right, so what I just heard was, when you stole from your company, what I just heard was, when you were unfaithful. What I just heard was, when you went behind that person's back, this, and this. And they go, yeah, great, I just want to make sure that we're here. Just take a quick look. You're checking in with them. You're letting them know there's no judgment here. There's no judgment. There is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. There is simply what happened. They're coming to you, believing in you. They're putting their trust and care and love in you. They want you to be there for them. They're talking to you like you're talking to nobody else. You'll hear it several times. I've never said this to anybody before. This is really weird. Just me? Okay, good. So, when we bring our judgment into the conversation, one of two things happen. They sense it. They feel your judgment. It could be something like, it could be anything. It could be a squint. All of a sudden you go, What happens is they shut down immediately. And there is no more conversation at that. They're going to give you just enough to get through the conversation for that day. And I've been here before, by the way. I've done it. I didn't realize that I was doing it. I went back and watched. I'm like, oh my goodness, I did that. And I had to call them up and restore that integrity really quick. And tell them that was an automatic response. I'm sorry. I will be sure that I will do everything I can to not let that happen again. And we restore our integrity with them. It goes so far beyond everything we can ever do. Because all of a sudden they go, whoa, my coach makes mistakes. Cool. All right, we're even. We're even. We're on a level playing field. The second thing that happens is that when we start getting into our viewpoints and our beliefs, and we start thinking, like all of a sudden they're like, man, I can't believe that they did that. This is that chatter that's happening, right? Because right now everybody's having a conversation in their head about what's happening right now. You can't stop and watch. And you're like, it's not I have a conversation in my head. What's he talking about? Why did he stop talking? What's going on over here? What? Oh, wait. Oh, it's that one. Yes, that one. Those conversations are constantly going, and all of a sudden they show up, and somebody says something, and you're coaching conversations, and your voices start going quickly, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm not present anymore. I have no idea what's happening right now. You know how quickly you course correct? So I want to make sure that I heard you correctly. Can you say that one more time? Because that does happen. And what we're doing is we're making sure that we're checking with our person, and so they know that we're with them. In order to be for them, we have to be with them. See, something is in the place of the known. Because we're in our mind, we are moving towards something that we see. That's coming from something. What we want to do is come from a place of nothing. See, new possibilities, transformation happens in the place of nothing. Because in the place of nothing, you can grab a pen, you can write whatever you want on this paper. This is from nothing. This is the unknown. This is what we're doing with our clients. And I go, geez, that we get to do that. We get to create transformation and things that they've never even thought of before. But funny enough, that they knew it, they just didn't know that they knew it. That's hanging out in the place of what they don't know that they don't know. It's beautiful. And they go, and they're confirmed, well, maybe, you know what, one time when I was 8 years old, I had this dream, and all of a sudden it was that. And they're like, that's so cool. And you celebrate with them. That's coming, you're helping them create that with themselves. See, when we remove right, wrong, and judgment, you allow your client to be freely expressing to yourself, and they create something that has never been before for them. You're helping them step from this carpet into this open space of nothingness, and they get to create from here. You see, when they're creating from something, there's all this other stuff there. They're creating from nothing, they can put whatever they want here with themselves. And we have to be sure that our viewpoint is not getting in the middle of that. And by being there from them, they get to do that. that, right? So I have this here, it's called Nothing's Wrong, and if you have a question about this part here, I love this conversation. And I could do another hour on only nothing wrong. See, nothing's wrong is a very powerful place. See, most of the time people are going to come to you and they're going to say things, it's possible, but they're going to say things like, I can't do this, I did my best to wake up at 5 o'clock this morning, by 7 o'clock rolled around, I looked at the clock and I had snoozed 75 times already. Or I've been looking to open my business, or I've been looking to advance and I just can't seem to, my mind won't let me, and all these things, and all of a sudden they become wrong about it. I'm wrong. Well, no, reality, they simply had thoughts. And they put meaning on those thoughts. And that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. They had a simple thought. And they put meaning on it. See, the unfortunate thing about something wrong is that when something's wrong, you feel like something's broken, right? I don't know about you all. When something's broken around my house, I'm like MacGyver. I gotta fix something. I'll take a screwdriver and a hammer. I can fix anything in my house. When there's something wrong, we look to fix something. But when nothing's broken, there's nothing to fix. So we start spiraling over. Something's wrong. Something's broken. Need to fix it. Can't find it. Something's wrong with that. Need to fix that. Nothing's wrong. Can't fix that. Oh my goodness, everything's wrong. Stuck. I've been stuck for 10 years. Nobody's broken, and they don't need fixing. We are not broken people. We are God's children. We have been made in His image. The devil has infiltrated our minds and given us doubt, insecurities, and fears. He says, whoa, who do you think you are? Standing up here on a platform with this Ziegler. Are you insane? You don't have a legacy like they do. Doubt. And then fear shows up. I hope I remember everything. Insecurities. I remember when I was a kid, I raised my hand in school, got the wrong answer, all the kids laughed at me. Well, I'm never going to do that again. I felt terrible. You guys digging this? Yeah. This is cool. All right, so here's a question. What does this open up for you? What does this way of being do for coaching? What does it open up for you when we really start looking at how we be in our life? How we allow our meanings and our beliefs to control who we are? And like I said before, when I say I don't put my belief in Christianity is not a belief, to me it's a truth. I remove that from my equation when I talk about belief. I'm talking about the belief of possibility. What do we do when we remove everything that we think we know? When we step into the God's realm of anything that's actually possible. And it's not possible for everybody else. It's possible for you. It's just possible. You know how we know? Look at us all. How many really believed 3 to 5 years ago that you'd be a coach sitting here with Mr. Tom Ziegler and his family? I'm not putting my hand up. I didn't think so. You want to know how I got connected with Mr. Ziegler? I was praying about it. I was looking for somebody with some serious mindset. I was looking for that, man. I was aching. Funny enough, I scrolled through Facebook a couple minutes later. Tom Ziegler. Hey, I wonder if that's. Click. Hey, that's Tom's son. I really had no idea. I put my name and number in. Within 20 minutes or so, my phone rings and I'm like, I don't know the number. It's probably one of those people trying to sell me something.
Your car insurance expired.
My warranty. Hello? Steve? Yeah? Tom Ziegler. Oh. Do you remember this? Can you hang on a minute? Hi. I was like, what's going on here? At that point in time, being gets in the way of our conversation with God. Our way of being gets in the way of our conversation with our clients and our coaches. Our way of being gets in the way of how we show up for our family. We judge. We predict. We look to control and manipulate so we can be the ones in control, because when we feel like we're in control, we feel like we've got it. Really? Have you ever made a plan and you heard this funny laughter in the background and you're like, that's weird, I wonder what that was. That's God laughing at you going, oh my goodness, that plan's cool, but do you have any idea how big my plan is for you? How about you stop trying to control things and start relying on me? Like Rochelle was talking about, she's a witness and a testimony of exactly what happens when you give everything over and stop getting in our own way. And we allow that place to open up for our coachees and our clients, because helping them by leading by the example of being a non-judgmental, non-controlling person, we allow them to also be the same way. This quote here has been said probably more times than any quote that I've heard so far this weekend. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm really paying attention. And you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And I thought about it for a minute, and I'm like, you know what? There's an extra step on this here. It's not about what I can do for you and help you get what you want to get as a client. It's about helping your client help other people. It's helping them show up for their husbands and their wives and their boyfriends and their girlfriends. It's helping them show up for their parents and their kids. It's helping them get what they want.